I was 11 years old in 1967. I remember vividly a conversation. I grew up across the street from my aunt and uncle and my cousin, so they had a kind of a critical mass there, right? And, I remember wondering why my parents and my uncles couldn't buy gasoline, couldn't buy alcohol. Of course, didn't really care about alcohol, but you're like, what? And my dad was a commuter. He commuted all the way out to Ypsilanti. And so I remember him talking about, he wasn't sure he could make it to work. He was like everybody in Dearborn, worked at Ford. And, I was like, what? You can't buy gasoline? Why is that? And again, you have to remember that TV wasn't what it is today, right? You had 3 channels plus a Canadian channel, and it was pretty much turning off at midnight. So the information, except for the newspaper, wasn't running like it does today with social media. So it was an interesting time. So there was this turmoil about not being able to get to work. Why can't that happen? What's going on? There was real thirst for information. And I think some of that information was probably tainted. The true renaissance isn't going to happen unless it's really inclusion for all. And I worry about regentrification. I worry about people feeling they've been left out of this. We have 138 square miles in the city of Detroit. It has to be about the entire 138, not just, Midtown and downtown. And I'm sure there's a lot of leaders that agree with that statement. I'm not alone on that. But I think economic equity and diversity and inclusion are going to be bigger in 2017 than they were before, just based on where we are politically in the country right now. I've lived in many communities, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, spent 2 years in Cleveland. And I was actually surprised, for being as far north as we are, how still we're somewhat segregated. Even some of the cities I just ticked off are not what you would think would be the epicenter for diversity and inclusion. Yet I found when my children were growing up, we were much more diverse than we were in Detroit. PNC Bank has been involved in a lot of equity funds that have targeted the city of Detroit. The Woodward Corridor Fund comes to mind right now. We are huge fans, including me, of Sue Mosey and what she's been able to do in Midtown. But I think our emphasis, we want to see this migrate to the neighborhoods. So not only in this project, Project 67, and us making a commitment, for where maybe the disturbances started, but also out in the neighborhoods. We need to get these cities within a city or towns within a city, going. And I'm convinced the mayor's aware of that. I think city council's aware of that, and I think some of the leaders are aware of that. So in our philanthropy, we're going to be more focused on neighborhood. And that's really, when you think about it, as a bank, should be in our sweet spot in terms of economic development, but also more about, the neighborhoods. And that can come in the form of many things, not just housing assistance, not just neighborhood programs, but it can also come in terms of, financial literacy, literacy through our Grow Up Great program. So, there's a lot of forms that can come in. And while we're one cog in it, I think, my job is to enroll other business leaders to kind of join in these kinds of efforts. I fear that we've forgotten. I fear that there's a generation that's growing up that doesn't know about this, doesn't know the loss of life, doesn't know, most importantly, the roots of why this happened. And I think projects like this are extremely important. But it's amazing to me how much some of this generation knows and how little they know. I think it's really important. It's real important to Detroit, but it's also important, I think, to the country. And so if we can preserve these and educate, we're much less likely to repeat it.